Everyone watches women's sports.
Everyone watches women's sports.
Everyone watches women's sports.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Everyone watches women's sports. The podcast.
Welcome back to episode 10 of Everyone Watches Women's Sports. I finally have some feminine energy on the show today. I'm so excited. We have Melissa Triebwasser as our special interview guest for the day. Melissa covers TCU athletics, mostly football, if I'm not mistaken, and is also covering the WNBA for Winsider, specifically the Dallas Wings. So welcome to the show, Melissa.
I appreciate the welcome. And I will say, while I do a lot of football, I am rocking the TCU women's basketball shirt because I did cover that team.
I see your picture in the back too. I see your picture in the back too. So
football is a big deal, obviously, in college athletics. But the most fun I've ever had covering a team was this last season with TCU women's basketball, for sure.
Oh my God, the fact that I just got chills at you saying that, because it's so true, man. What a run they had, and especially coming off an insane season last year, like that crazy story of all those players being injured and the tryouts, mid-season tryouts to get some people in there. And you're gonna obviously have to help me out on this one. I can't remember the player's name, but the girl who was a walk-on last year.
Ella
Hamlin. Yep. Player from this past season. So incredible story over there. So just tell us the most exciting part about what you do and how long you've been doing it all.
I mean, I think, like, I'm a TCU alum, and so that's kind of where I got my start in sports journalism and photography, was wanting to stay connected to the university that I went to. And I've kind of bounced back and forth between Texas and California. California's home, but I've spent so much of my adult life in Texas that it's always kind of drawn me back in. And so wanting to stay connected when I was living in California, I started blogging when blogging was really in its infancy. And then me and my podcast partner, Jamie, we just really worked hard to earn a credential. And when a lot of colleges weren't giving blogs credentials, we kind of fought our way through using basketball as our vehicle. And both of us have covered a lot of bad TCU teams through the years, but we've also, especially in basketball on the men's side, but we've also gotten to do some really cool things. And so, getting to I covered the national championship game in football and the TCU's playoff run. I've been to College World Series and NCAA tournaments for both the men and the women. And then following this women's team this past year, getting to know Mark Campbell and Haley Van Lith and Madison Connor and Agnes Eminopu. And I mean, that entire roster was just really just fun people to be around. Watching them beat Notre Dame and to get to the Elite Eight. TCU as a men's or women's had never even been to a Sweet 16. I
called that win, by the way, on my TikTok.
One of the few people that believed in
TikTok, and I said they're gonna upset them, and they did. I called that.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. And then, like, finding out shortly after that win that Olivia Miles was in the portal and knowing that she might end up at TCU, like, that was a crazy, crazy weekend. So to me, it's staying close to the university, it's staying close to athletics, and it's getting to have really incredible experiences. I've traveled all over the country, taking photos and sitting in press conferences and interviewing athletes. And that to me is my favorite part, is, going from being just a fan to someone who really gets to know these players. It's really changed the way that I look at success, I think, in athletics, both at the college and the professional level. You definitely have more patience and empathy and different things when you see how hard these men and women work behind the scenes and how badly they do want to win, even if it doesn't always end up that way.
Absolutely. That's so true. I mean, I just can't get over how incredible that TCU story was from this past season. I absolutely love Haley Van Lith, and obviously we know there's a bunch of other storylines and stuff we could discuss with Sedona, but basketball is basketball, and what they did together as a team was absolutely crazy. And I have, that Oregon connection with Mark Campbell. He's the reason why Sabrina Ionescu ended up going to Oregon.
Yeah.
So he is just an amazing, amazing recruiter. I said on Twitter at one point, like, that man can recruit his ass off.
Yeah,
Excuse
he
my
really can.
language, but and that is half the reason why he ended up grabbing Olivia Miles. I mean,
Yeah,
he has
he's
just built
incredible.
such an incredible program. So I'm so excited to watch TCU. So I look
Yeah,
forward to
can't
more
wait.
of your reporting on them for sure. So make sure to keep me updated if there's anything special I need to help share out. I'm more than happy
Absolutely.
to. But as many know, transitioning here a little bit to the WNBA, Dallas landed the number one pick in last year's draft lottery and exercised that privilege by drafting, obviously, Paige Beckers from UConn. How has the overall vibe changed in Dallas Fort Worth since that acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really crazy. I think in a lot of ways, covering Haley Van Lith this past year really prepared me for covering Paige Beckers in a really positive way. Haley, I had an interview with her in the locker room where she was really vulnerable and shared a lot. And the care, like, again, because you start to care about these people as human beings, not just athletes. Like, that was a real eye opener for me of like, what is it like for these young people to be in that type of spotlight? And for as big of a star as Haley was, take it to another stratosphere with Paige Beckers for sure. And I've just gained so much appreciation for how she carries herself and how she handles the attention and the willingness she takes to use her platform. After the first preseason game, she said, "I don't see myself as a celebrity. I'm just a basketball player." But she clearly understands that when she talks, people listen. And I don't know if you had a chance to read the Time magazine interview that she did, but to use her platform to highlight, underserved communities and women of color and the athletes that came before her, I just think is so admirable, especially for somebody who is still so young. And so to see a magnetic personality, a character, a great player, and a really great person land in Dallas's lap so soon after Luka Doncic was traded, I mean, DFW needed this so badly. I mean, I am not a Cowboys fan, so they can't hurt me, which is great. But just the torture that DFW fans go through. You had the Mavericks win in 2011. The Rangers won a World Series a couple of years ago. You've had, TCU has had high levels of success at different periods of time. The Stars are really good, but there was such a gaping hole in just like the vibes after Luka was traded that to know that Paige
Absolutely.
could come in. Yeah, it was brutal. It was very sad here for
People
a very
were
long
crashing
time.
out all over the internet.
And like, I'm a high school teacher. My students, the way they came in the next day, I was like, oh my God, like, who died? Like, it was brutal. So it has been really fun to see her, especially after the rumors of like, oh, she doesn't want to be there. She may stay in college. She has gone all in with Texas, and she is super committed and super enthusiastic. She was at a Stars game on Tuesday night, which was really
Yep.
cool. So yeah, I mean, she's awesome. It's a blast to cover her. I really love. You could see her starting to let her like guard down in an appropriate way and have a
Yep.
little bit more fun and be a little bit more bought in with the team. And that's really what DFW needs right now so badly. And now you add in that Cooper Flag is likely going to be in Dallas in a couple of months too.
I
I
was
think
just going to bring that up. You little
yeah.
greedy suckers out
I
there.
tell ya, I like 1.8%, like insane, absolutely insane. But yeah, like it's really cool to see this energy around basketball in this part of town, and to see people really fired up about women's basketball. It started with TCU. We saw it towards the end of the season, the way the community rallied, and to have, I think that the experience around the wings can benefit TCU, just like TCU can lead momentum to benefiting the wings. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I love what you said about Paige starting to finally let her guard down, because your video that you posted the other day about her getting a dog, and she finally had to have a mature conversation with herself about that decision. And I was just cracking up about that, because I'm a diehard Paige Beckers fan. I've got my Wings jersey on. I've got my UConn gear up here. And that girl, man, she just cracks me up. And that was such a Paige comment for her to say, yeah, I had to be a little introspective for a second, have a come to Jesus moment, and say that's not a wise decision. So, I just love, you can tell that there's just a little, there's twinkles in the air down there now that
Absolutely.
she has
Absolutely.
come to town. So, and I love that she's just embracing the Dallas culture. She was so jazzed to try the Tex-Mex food and, just getting immersed in the culture. Like you said, she was at the Stars game the other day. So it seems like it's been exciting. And I mean, you're all smiles talking about getting to cover her. So I think it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like it's been such a privilege. And said I've gotten to have some really really cool experiences over the last decade plus that I've been doing this on some semi professional level. But there's such a unique opportunity with and not just Paige. Like Paige is a supernova, but Arike Ogunbowale,
Yeah.
Dejanay Carrington. Like there's so much great personalities and so many athletes and humans to celebrate on this team. And just being around them and being at practices and watching the pregame, it's really fun to see it kind of start from the beginning because there's 9 new players on this roster, and so to watch it all come together and to see the difference from day one. I was at the very first training camp practice to now, and to see how they're really starting to gel on and off the court. It's cool to see that being built from the ground up, and I think that the personalities have a lot. Like JJ Quinterly is a player who I really watched very closely as a Big 12 athlete. She was on my all Big 12 tournament team. And I really thought that she was a player that could stick on this roster, and it looks like she's got a really good chance to do so. And to see her kind of playing around, and to see the rookies kind of playing around, and Madison Scott, who unfortunately ended up getting waived in a numbers crunch. I mean, she was just such an impressive person. So it's really cool to see the growth of this team, to see how Chris Koklanis is growing as the head coach, and to watch them. It's like having like a new bunch of newborn puppies, and they're all kind of figuring it out as they run all over each other, but you can tell that they're going to grow into something really great in time.
Yeah, and I think it's tangible. You can just tell how much fun they're all having together, which is obviously a very important component of, just getting to know each other and getting comfortable around each other. Um, the you mentioned everybody's personality, which I think is one of the most lovable things about this team. I wanted so badly. I said it on Twitter before it happened. I wanted Dejanay and Melissa to play on a team together. I predicted they were going to play together in Connecticut, but I was slightly wrong on that. Obviously, now they're playing together in Dallas, but um, just seeing them together as teammates after we got to watch them play opposite each other last season, I think is going to be so fun. So many different personalities. And like you said, you've had the opportunity to kind of watch everybody at practice. So what can you tell us about how this team is going to play together?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like, there's still obviously some weaknesses. They've got to figure out what they want to do in the front court. I think Tiara McCowan looked a lot better in game 2 than she did in game 1. Obviously, the level of competition was significantly different, as it's going to be, when you go from playing to aces to anybody else, pretty much with the, outside of maybe the Liberty and Minnesota, who they open against on Friday night. But I think that the hard thing for a first year head coach in the professional level is how do you make those hard choices? And so we saw Koklanis do that from game 1 to game two, changing the starting lineup, right? And inserting Melissa and trying some different things. Aisha Harris also in the starting lineup. And so he's still figuring out how to coach a professional team. I think you saw a massive difference between how Arike and Paige played together in game 1 versus game 2. I will never forget the smile that Arike had as Paige whipped that one-handed fastball at her, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like things are going to be so much easier for me this year. So
yeah,
there's a
Arike's
lot.
Like, this is what I signed up for.
Yes, this is, and I think that I have to imagine that it's got to be really difficult to be a player like Arike, who has been a top 10, top 15 player in the league for several years, and to go relatively unnoticed and to play on a team that was kind of bad. And then all of a sudden, this kid comes in and everybody wants to talk to her and nobody wants to talk to Enrique. And, all the attention, all the social media, all the interviews, everything is Paige, Paige, Paige. And for a vet who deserves everything in the world, I think that there had to be a moment of like, what happened? Like, where's my love, right? But I think she's kind of carving back out her niche and her role and remembering, hey, she's a great player. And if this is elevated, she wants to win. I mean, they won 9 games last year. Like, I don't care how great you're, I think Haley said it this season, earlier this season, like, who cares if you score 20 points and you lose every game? Like, that's not what basketball players want. And so Enrique was putting up huge numbers, but it was miserable. And so that, to be that play, that moment, that smile said, okay, they're going to figure it out. They're going to rise together, and the rising tide lifts all boats. So there's some issues. I mean, the 3-point shooting and the spacing, you can see that Koklanis is still working out what his offense needs to look like, how to use the screen and roll. Paige has such a great feel in the pick and roll game. I think that once they figure out who the screeners are going to be consistently, you'll see a lot of great action, especially at the high post screen. Paige is obviously a great 3-point shooter. Maddie Segrist is going to, have a chance to be an excellent sixth man, and she really worked on her outside shot this offseason. That was a focal point for her. Dejanay, both defensively, and I think her offensive game is really developing in the system as well. Everyone should get easy buckets with a player and distributor like Paige, and to see Paige and Enrique both have 6 assists in that second game, I think that the offense should start to come a little bit easier if they can get the spacing down. Defensively, I'm interested to see rebounding. I'm interested to see, they're going to take their lumps, I think, especially early on. But much like we saw with Caitlin Clark and the Fever a season ago, if they can peak at the right time, this is definitely a team that can make a playoff push. And the talent is certainly there. It looks like they did a really good job in roster construction. We'll have to see it play out, but they have the pieces to be competitive. And if they could just kind of hang on for dear life here for the first month and a half of the season, and then really go on a run after the All-Star break when Paige finally gets to rest, because that's also another part of this. When you play in a national championship game, you go on a world press tour basically, and you come back and you've had 30 seconds to get off your feet. Like that, she's got to get worn out at some point. For sure. But I think if you can just hold the line until the All-Star break, let her get a couple of days off, and then make that push late. Like I think that's the recipe for success for this team this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I have to say, I was pretty impressed with Tierra McCowan in those first couple of games they played. I can personally say that as a non-Wings fan, there was some frustrating moments from Tierra last year of just not understanding where the plays were going to be, being slow to grab rebounds, slow to jump on the floor after loose balls, things like that. But she just seems like she's clicking. She definitely seems like she got in way better shape over the off season. And I'm just impressed from the changes that I've seen for her so far. I definitely think she has an opportunity to potentially be in the most improved player conversation if things go well for her.
And she has to be. Like, if this team wants to be successful, like that is their giant gaping hole is at the 5 position, right? Like there's nobody else to even really go to. So you're either playing small with a couple of power forwards, which you can get away with against some of these teams, but you can't go into some of these big physical teams who are going to try to beat Paige up on the perimeter. Like Enrique is like that. She's a dog. Like she is so physical, and I mean, she's not tall, but her and Haley are very similar in that sense of like, don't tell me they're too small to be successful at this league.
So scrappy.
They're too gritty. They're too scrappy, and Enrique is obviously like a much more elite shooter at this stage in her career. But yeah, I mean, you need somebody that can go in, can get a strong board, that can get a good bucket, that can protect the rim a little bit. And so I think she's got to step up. And like, I totally agree. I think she definitely looks better than she did a season ago, but there's still going to have to be another step taken for this team to reach its goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking to the future a little bit in Dallas, we've gotten some recent news about the new facilities that are going to be built. Is there anything that we can expect in particular with that development?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you could expect is a professional facility, and as somebody who works in Arlington, my school's in Arlington. Like I love UTA. So excited that College Park has been willing to host this franchise for the last several years. I love that it's about 17 minutes away from me. I don't want to have to drive to Dallas every day, but at the end of the day, like those facilities ain't it, and they're doing the best that they can. For sure. Like, again, like I don't want to rip on the facilities, but when you look at, what the Storm is doing, what the Valkyries are doing, what some of these other franchises, the Aces, the money that they're putting into them, if you want to be one of those marquee teams that can not only keep a Paige Beckers and Enrique Ogunbowale for years to come, but can attract top talent, you cannot be, I mean, like, the watching like Paige sit down in the first post game press conference behind like a folding table with a thing on it. Like, again, they're doing the best they can. Like, no shade whatsoever. Like, this is the hand they've been dealt, and they have a place to play. And UTA's super supportive and the fans are coming out, like everything of that is good. But to see what they're going to be having in the future as far as just investment, professionalism, and just the sheer beauty of this facility, that's what you need to be if you want to be a serious franchise in the W. And like, God bless it too. Like, I'm so happy that that's the expectation now, right? Like, I mean, I grew up, I'm old. And so, with the Monarchs, I was in Sacramento when the Monarchs started their franchise in 97 and they played in the old Arco Arena. They played in a professional building. And there was, a couple thousand people there, and that looks terrible in a 16,000 seat arena. And so you don't want to have to share. You need your own space. And I'm happy that the city of Dallas has said this is important to us. We see that this can be successful. It's not a charity case, and we want to spend money. And they're building a beautiful facility around the arena too. So you're really going to have something that I think that these players deserve, this coaching staff deserves, and the fans really deserve too. And so, I think a year from now, that's super ambitious, having lived in Texas and knowing how long it takes anything to get done around here. Like, ask anybody about I-35 and the construction, and they'll probably pass out on the spot. But if they can truly pull that off, it's awesome for the Wings and it's awesome for women's basketball. So again, I'm loving being at UTA. It's super easy, very convenient to me. But you can tell that these players deserve professional facilities, and I'm glad that that's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw something recently that they're supposed to be about a year out for that. So
that's the expectation. But again,
hoping everything goes to
Yeah.
plan with that, because it would definitely be great for them to have that, at the start
sure.
of the season for sure. So it's great that all of these teams are finally making a push to get this, state of the art facilities, and, even just their own locker rooms, their own treatment rooms, their own workout facilities, and things like that for these players.
They're pros.
It's
Treat them like
private.
pros.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's private. They have, their place that they can keep their gear.
Yeah.
They don't have to take things back and forth to
Poor
a
Enrique rolling in the cart of shoes, man. Like, girl, no. I just like it's yeah. So yeah, I mean it's the league is starting to make money. There's obviously such positive momentum around it and around the growth of it. You saw what Unrivaled did.
Right.
If you want to be a league for a long time, you have to treat it with the respect that these players deserve. And so, yeah.
I contributed my $125.
There you go. You got it. You got it. Yeah. I mean, these things matter. Like, they really, really do. Like, ticket sales aren't what drives the bus in sports. It's media deals. But you have to have the facilities to back it up, and the players have to be happy. And you want that. You built this league for them to stay here and play. Right. So make sure that your facilities are the best in the world. And that's what's happening across the league. And it's, again, as somebody who, remembers the very first WNBA game and nobody watching for 20 years, like, strike while the iron's hot, man. Like, you've got Caitlin Clark, you've got Paige Beckers, you've got Asia Wilson, you have all of these not just great players, but massive names and big time draws. You've got to make it happen now.
Yeah, you got to give them something to stick around for sure.
Exactly.
Transitioning back a little bit towards the basketball side of things, there is one Dallas Wing that you mentioned a little bit ago who is highly underrated and just simply not talked about enough. So give us the lowdown on Maddie Siegrist, and what's your favorite thing about her on the court or off?
I really like Maddie a lot. She's a player that I remember from her college career a little bit, and the success that she had, but I had never really known what she was about, as a person. And she's a character. She is so calm. She is so composed, but she has such a little spark about her, right? And a lot of these players do. They like to push just a little bit of the buttons, especially the older vets. And you can tell she's the kind of teammate that everybody wants to have. She is a real glue person. So I think she's so scrappy, and she's got great size on the court. I was really impressed with her rebounding against the Antelopes. So again, had a big size advantage. But if she can provide that extra rebounding help, kind of from that guard forward, small forward position, and she can knock down threes at a good clip, which I know is something that she's reiterated time and time again. That's something she's been working on. That's something she knew she had to improve on. I think her experience with Athletes Unlimited really helped her confidence level, and then getting that fourth-year option picked up, before the season started.
And didn't she win Athletes Unlimited?
Yeah, she did. I think she did. Yeah. So she is and she's getting married.
That's right.
So many things seem to be like, and the Pope is from Villanova. Like,
that's
many things are going right for Maddie Siegrist right now, and you can tell. Like, it's just like anything. when the stuff is rolling downhill in a positive way, that is going to impact every aspect of your life. And
True.
she is living her best life right now. So I think she's great. I'm super excited about what she can bring on the court. And I think she feels such an important need for them off the bench between her and Isaiah James. If those two can can combine for 12 to 14 to 16 points a night, which I don't think is an unreasonable expectation, that really elevates this team as a whole. So I think she is going to be the one when Paige is being the annoying little sister that we know she loves to be, and Dejanay is being Dejanay, and Enrique is I feel like she's the one that can pull everybody back and be like, hey, we got this. And when things get hard, because this team is gonna lose some games, like this is gonna be different. And a player like Paige and Isaiah, they've not lost games. They don't understand
they've
what
had a
it's
lot
like
of
to
success
lose.
recently.
Yeah. And so having a younger player that's relatable, that's young out of college like Maddie, I think that can really help of how do you go from that level of success and going out every night expecting to win and not being unreasonable to knowing you're going to take your lumps occasionally. I think she could really be that bridge between the oldest vets, which like no one's 30 years old on this team. It is a baby team, but those more experienced players and those rookies, like I think her role is going to be critically important both on the court, but also on the bench and in the locker room.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a great point. I definitely think Maddie is just one of those people who's just a morale booster. You know what I mean? She's just one of those people that kind of can remind people who they are, including herself. She can have that, just serious moment with herself and get things kind of recentered, and get them back on the W side of the column, because like you said, there will definitely be some losses, unfortunately, for this team, but that's part of the growing pains. Like you said, we saw it last year with the Indiana Fever, and then they finished off the season great, made a good playoffs run. So speaking of experience, last but certainly not least, let's talk a little bit about Enrique for a minute. How is her experience going to help this Dallas team potentially make a deep playoff run?
I mean, she has to be the fulcrum, right? Like Paige is going to be the X factor, I think, and how quickly she adjusts to the professional basketball, which I mean, her IQ is she's insane. She's insane. But it's going to come down to Enrique not and making that adjustment from being the person that had to put up 20 shots a game for your team to have a chance to how can I be more efficient and still put the ball in the hoop? Like
and
she
trust.
is, and she's going to have to trust her teammates, right? And it's a whole new team. That's really hard to do. She is the only one that has been there for as long as she's been there. Nobody's even close. I mean, I think that the next longest tenured player there is like 4 years or something.
Yeah.
So this is her team, and she has to lead the charge. And I think that's the important thing is just like we've seen with these other high profile rookies, whether it's Caitlin or Angel or whoever else, like it's not your team. Even if you're the brightest star, you still have to earn it. And Paige is 100% willing to earn it. Like you can tell she really looks up to Enrique and that she really wants to be the kind of teammate that Enrique wants and needs to be successful. So I think that this is a big year. I mean, she's going to be a free agent at the end of this season. And so you're looking at like along with the rest of the WNBA, apparently, like there's like 4 players that are re-signed through 2026, which is going to be insane. But are you selling yourself again to her? Are you saying let's build something special here long term? Is she selling herself to the highest bidder? I mean, she came out in media day and said the CBA like we need $1 million player. Is she one of those players that's going to be? Yeah, I mean, so there, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and she seems like such a pro. And the fact that she's not going to let those distractions get to her, she is so locked in. But there are so many pieces in play outside of just her play on the court that it's going to be fascinating to see how those developments kind of play out. If they lose early, is she going to be like, I'm done, I want to trade? Or is she going to be like, this sucks and I'm sick of losing in Dallas, but I also believe in the future and pull them up? Like I wouldn't blame her for either one, right? Like she's earned the right to do whatever she wants and she deserves to be a winner. She is such a dynamic offensive presence and such a special gifted player that she can really raise this team to new heights now that she has a facilitator beside her and you can take the ball out of her hands to set up the offense and let her just run loose. So it looks like again the chemistry, the heartbeat of that team is really tied together, but it all starts with her, and she does seem very locked in and very desirable of having the kind of relationship with Paige that can elevate this franchise. And I think she does want to win in Dallas. I think she wants to be there to cut the ribbon on the new facility. Like I think those are important things to her. So, especially after Satu Sabali demanded a trade, you're like, is she going to want to go next? Like, and she didn't. She stayed and she committed, and she deserves to have a winner here. So she's going to continue to grow and develop her game. But like, what are you going to nitpick on her on offense? Like, I don't think that there's a weakness. Her handle's great. Her outside shot is electric. She can get to the rim. She can finish. She's defensively probably needs to lock in a little bit more than she did a season ago, because she does have a couple of great defenders around her, but this team is going to have to win by being able to get stops down the stretch. You can't just outscore everybody in this league, and that's probably their biggest area of weakness as a whole. So she can really lead the charge in that regard too. So I like watching that preseason game in person, which is I'm ashamed to say the first time that I've watched the Wings play in person. I've seen them on TV multiple times, but I know it's embarrassing. Like, I'm ashamed of it, but I wasn't here the last 3 years, so it's not really my fault. I just moved back this past year. So
okay.
Yeah. So the excuses,
That's
but whatever.
fair. Yeah. You have.
Yeah, but like, I think I tweeted at one point, I'm like, I get the hype over Paige and it is deserved, but oh my gosh, like Arike in person is on another level. Like that, she is sheer electricity. I mean, she has the gamesmanship of a Steph Curry. She's got the dynamic ability of a Kyrie Irving. And she has just like the bluster and bravado of like a Draymond Green without the dirty plays. Like she gives you so much on the floor that I'm like, this is the person that like people are going to be fired up about Paige for real, but the real ones that are there day in and day out, they know that Arike drives the bus and she can take them wherever she wants to go.
She's the Showtime of the
totally
the organization.
Totally Showtime.
Sure.
Yeah, I have so much respect for her game, and she's a tougher one. She's a tougher nut to crack. She don't want to give you much. She's her interviews are about 1 minute and 30 seconds, and that's even if you ask her 10 questions. Like, it is, she is in and out of there. She wants nothing to do with it. She is all business. But hopefully we're seeing a little bit of her having fun with the Wings media team at least. So hopefully she's going to give us a little something too this season.
I think she will. I think sometimes some of those players that start out the season quiet, it's because they're trying to just keep focused and, see how things get going. But once they finally mellow out and they're like, okay, this is where we're going to be, then you'll start to see those flashes of personality.
Not many people were covering this team last year.
Right. Yeah.
There's a bunch of new faces, and I think I think something the media forgets is when you same thing that happened with Haley too. Like, when all of a sudden you descend on this program you've never paid any attention to, of course the players don't trust you.
Right.
Like, where'd all these new faces come from? Why weren't you here before? Why are you only here now? You're not here for me. You're here for her.
Right.
So you're going to have to earn it with me. And I hope that more media members, not just in the WNBA, but across all athletics, like, when you only show up because something special happened, like, you can't be mad when the players are like, no, you're going to have to earn your stripes here a little bit and show that you're going to be invested no matter what happens the first couple weeks of the season.
Right. And that's fair, especially because, we saw from Cameron Brink, like, the hesitation about like the male practice players and stuff. You're like, okay, we are all rising, obviously, to popularity. There are people's favorites, whether they like Paige's basketball or they think Cameron is a supermodel, what have you. And it's like, well, who is this person? Are they safe? Are they going to take something I'm going to say out of context and quotes
and
about
clip it and go viral in a way that's not flattering to the person, or it leaves out really important. Everybody has a platform now, and sometimes that's really, really great, and sometimes it really, really hurts people. And I think especially as females, like, we're so much more prone to look for the worst case scenario because they're so much more often exploited. And that's something, again, I learned, I keep bringing up Haley, but it was such a valuable experience for me as a reporter to have somebody who was so willing to be so vulnerable and authentic in those moments, and to learn, like, just because they say something and they say it publicly doesn't mean you've got to rush to get it out. Sometimes it's worth sleeping on something. Sometimes it's worth having a conversation with the PR person or representative just to make sure, like, because at the end of the day, like, it's really cool to have a video go off for 50,000 views. I'd never had that before. Like, it's really cool. It's fun. I feel good for 8 seconds, but like, what's the long-term implication of that? Is it something positive for the athlete, or is it something negative? But if it's something negative, who cares what I feel like for that couple of minutes? I've done a disservice to somebody who's just out trying to do their job, and I'm not trying to do mine. I'm trying to do something within that job. Like I'm trying to, going viral is not the job of a good media representative. Being a good media representative is getting the stories out. And sometimes that you have to be critical, like that's totally fair, but I never want to make, and this is, something else I learned from covering Sedona for the last year too, right? Last 2 years. These are young people. They make mistakes. They make bad decisions. They need to be held accountable at times, for sure. But they also deserve space to learn and grow too. And so the balance of that, I think, is really, really critical, especially when you're working with young women.
Yeah, the one thing I will say on the Sedona thing, just to keep it light and keep it brief, is that, like you said, these are young people. It really didn't sit right with me that people were like, oh, TCU, remove her from the program.
Yeah.
Why is she still with the program? Well, because the NCAA is a business and it has very specific guidelines, and she has not done anything to violate those guidelines. And you can't, as a public, demonize this person when everything that's happening is all allegations and stories. There's no
Yeah.
charges. She's never been arrested. There's not, there's very specific things that need to happen, especially within the NCAA, in order for somebody to be kicked out, essentially.
Yeah.
And we've also seen the multiple male athletes, God forbid we start to have that conversation, that have had, their domestic violence, guns, whatever, and they remain on the football field, they remain on the basketball court, and so on and so forth. So it's a delicate conversation.
It's an incredibly delicate conversation. And my role covering TCU was far less like real hard-hitting journalism. The questions were asked by the professionals in the room, by the people with newspapers and staffs behind them. But you like on to your point too, like we saw something similar. We saw not something similar. We don't know what's similar or not, but we saw Terrence Shannon at Illinois get removed from the team and then be reinstated and a lawsuit follow. So there's so many, like, again, like I don't want to excuse any bad behavior. There have been consequences,
Yes.
right, for perceived actions or actions themselves. And she's going to have to earn her way back. By what she does off the court more so than what she does on the court, right? And so, yeah, it's an incredibly delicate and tricky situation. The WNBA made their choice and made their stance clear, and great, like that's their right. TCU made its choice and made its stance based on the information that they had, which is probably far more information than any of us have. Again, does that mean that things did or did not happen? I have no idea. I'm not privy to that information, and I can tell you they were very protective. They did their due diligence on their end. They were not going to share that. There were no leaks. I'm going to tell you, there were no leaks on any of that. But I think at the end of the day, like,
as it should have been, that's somebody's private life, and unless there are charges that are brought forth by law, then that stuff should remain private.
Yeah, it's just so messy, and let's just be nice. Like let's be nice to each other. Let's be nice to our athletes. Athletes be nice to other athletes. Like let's just not get in any messy stuff, and then we don't have to worry about it, and everybody's happy. That's what I'm hoping for.
Let's just focus on the basketball.
Let's get to just focus on I mean, in the WNBA, that's never possible. The T is just, man, it's hot and toasty around this league. I had no idea.
Ooh, girl.
It is fun. So I'm sure it'll be more than just the basketball, but it is fun that you get to see these athletes' personalities, you get to see them off the court, and that so many of them are willing to share parts of their lives, but also you don't want to exploit that. So it all goes back to, like you said, that balance and to kind of treading that line carefully.
Absolutely. Well, it has been such a treat having you on the show. This has gone by so incredibly fast. It's already been like 40 minutes. But tell us where we can find you online, how we can follow your coverage of the Dallas Wings and the rest of the WNBA.
Yeah, you could see a lot of great stuff about the WNBA across all Winsider platforms. That's WINSDER, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, I refuse to call it X, and of course the Winsider website where there's great features, great work being done. You can follow my work at Melissa Trieb on X, at the Coach Melissa on X at Twitter. I said I wasn't going to call it X, and I called it X. At Melissa Trieb on Instagram and TikTok, Melissa Trieb too. And then also my YouTube channels, all those platforms everywhere. But I'll be posting all of my interviews on YouTube. I'll be posting my favorite clips on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. And then I'm also the lead photographer for Winsider. So we're trying to figure out what our photo gallery is going to look like, but I'll be covering games mostly in Dallas, but both the opponent and the home team So I'll be sharing those across all those platforms as well.
Yeah, for all you page stands, if you want your viral page clips, you better go follow Melissa on TikTok.
She's given me a couple of them. They're pretty funny. Between her and Dijane, we're just having a field day of fun with those two, especially when they are getting after each other. Those are the best clips.
The best. I just love their relationship. So thank
It's
you
really
so
cute.
much for providing that for all of us. I know people are eating it up. So thank you again so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you, and we look forward to all your coverage of Paige, Enrique, Dijane, Melissa, Maddie, the whole crew in the wings this season.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.